here. Vice Chairman is on the other side. All right. So to be clear, you have a couple of my bosses in the room, our board of directors. And so I wanted to impress them, and here I am starting 15 minutes late. That's just the way we roll. Not really. We're right on time for everything. Chairman of our board is Vincent Tucker, Quality Service Moving, and David Barrett is vice chair, and Krystina Diman, who will be our presenter, will be meeting also. She's with Woody Funeral Home, BBB Memorial. You'll learn more about her. Come on up, ladies. Grab a seat. Grab a seat. Everybody feel like just jump in and let's get together. So we're going to go. Evie will talk to you a little bit about the way the program is going to run. There's going to be a lot of conversation. We don't want names. We're not videotaping. We are audio taping. So do not say your name. We do not want, because there's anyone under 18 in the room, we don't want a record of that. We just want to have a general conversation, an open conversation. Beware of who's in the room, but talk candidly, because in a gentle way, and the speakers will do the same, because this is critical, as we all know. And with that, Evie's going to give us the ground rules first, and then we're going to go around the room and let everybody answer certain questions. You got the questions up front. No PowerPoints. It's not real fancy intentionally. This is just a genuine conversation about a serious issue. When you hear the panelists speak and get the information from the back of the room, there's some great stuff to take back to your office and your family. So Evie is right here. Go ahead, Miss Evie.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know it's Monday morning, but let's do that again. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Wonderful. So you all see my agenda. I'm a time person, type A personality. That didn't work out today, so you can just ignore that. The ground rules. So here's what the ground rules are. Like Barry said, don't introduce yourself. It's not that we don't want to know who you are. You're very important, and thank you for being here today. But like we said, we have some children here today, and we don't really want them being exposed in any way. And we're grateful that they're here and going to be a part of this conversation. You have the questions. What's going to happen is that everybody here is going to be a part of a conversation. They're going to answer these questions. Right after that, in about 30 to 45 minutes, the panelists, the people that we invited here to speak, will have the opportunity to respond to those exact same questions based off of their own experiences and professions. All right, and I'm going to ask the questions, but don't be looking at me for any answers, because I don't have them. You guys are here to give your experiences. I'm just here to ask the questions. All right, are you all ready? Wonderful. So, what do you all know about fentanyl?
I'm gonna walk around with the mic, and if you want to say anything, just grab the mic from me, okay? We're not putting any pressure. Excuse me. Did I get your question?
Helps with pain. Helps with pain.
It's with pain.
It's a drug.
Just the smallest amount can kill you.
Well, got a good seat. You got a seat up front. We gotta know about that.
It's addictive. Not much.
Honest answer.
Deadly.
It can be found in all kinds of drugs.
Gives you a quick high.
It can be found in marijuana.
It can be deadly and mixed with anything.
Apparently they use it to cut drugs, and that's what makes drugs that would not necessarily be lethal fatal.
Very lethal and dairy. Stop standing here, sorry.
A leading crisis in our society today. It's used in hospitals, but it's also sold over the counter as well.
It's all over.
I'm gonna switch mics. This might be better for you. So get off the
Okay, we're
static.
gonna switch the mics, but keep it close to your mouth,
There you go.
because otherwise no one's gonna hear you.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me? Wonderful. All right, so, great, you all know a little bit about fentanyl. You know a little bit about what it does. Why is it important that we know what it does and what it is?
You like the answer? This topic, number two.
Why do you think it's important to learn about dangerous things to protect people? To protect people?
Susie, you don't have anything to say?
Drag me down. Keep moving. What was your question? We're coming back to you.
Knowledge is like
Anybody?
education.
For some people who just don't know about it.
Josh got the microphone down.
Yeah, something to say.
Good.
So if you have employees, it helps you to identify if they're high and what they may be on, coming to work. We need to be aware because of, we want better communities.
And we just need to be educated on, what it means and what the reactions are and what to do if we, suspect that someone is either using fentanyl or, that there may be some exposures that they're not aware of or we are aware of. It's just always better if you're educated.
You guys can take the mic so that you're shoving in face, so it'll be a lot more easier on me. They're pretty stressed out.
It's important for kids to know because you could save one of your friends' lives. So the more we educate kids and grandparents, the more we can proactively save someone's life in Virginia.
I was gonna kind of say the same thing. Our children are being exposed to the drug, unaware of its danger.
Yeah, I think the unintentional impact across all substances is the key to this.
There's enough fentanyl crossing the board that can kill everyone in the United States.
A lot of people, using pain meds and if they're getting them on the street, it can be deadly.
We got like 5-second answers here. You guys got up to 1 minute and then we flag it. So
Don't worry.
if you have anything more to share, don't be
Don't
afraid.
worry, I'll make them talk.
Yeah.
It's laced in about everything, that anyone can imagine. Kind of like someone touched on earlier, fentanyl is it kind of looks almost like candy, to younger kids, and they don't know that. So a lot of them are, ingesting the certain stuff. So it's good to know the signs and symptoms of possible fentanyl overdose, I think.
I think it's important to learn the outcomes of it and how to discard it.
Well, having a daughter who's getting ready to go off to college and drugs are rampant in colleges, for me, education is extremely important to remind her that not everything is safe, right? And so if she's going to be exposed to something, to learn to know how to say no, and that it's okay to say no. And then I just want to clarify something. So fentanyl, it is a drug, but it's put in everything, right? And if you ingest it, you're done. Like there is no coming back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that type of thing. So we need to, I think it's super important that people are educated that it can be in, it can be in your Molly, it can be in your, your marijuana, it can be in, any other drug that is in the streets, right? And so it's not just the, hey, don't take drugs. It's, hey, this is what it can do to you, right? And we've had a lot of people who have passed away because of that. They just didn't wake up. And now the parents are having to deal with what does that look like, right? So, but then also being able to recognize like what happens if you see somebody who's having a drug overdose, how do you step in and help that person without having the fear of, oh crap, I'm now gonna get in trouble because I was associated with the situation. So, because that's super important too, because she'll be around it. And so if she sees something, say something, do something, right?
You don't have to come back to dentures. You go. And so you all know too, where we're going with this conversation. This is not the norm. Usually you got, we call them talking heads, which I've been one before a few times in my life. You sit up there, you just talk and talk, and everybody starts phasing out in about 8 minutes, and we all leave here, we all say, yeah, we're all excited, and we forget. And if we didn't forget, we wouldn't have people still dying, right? We would have everybody knowing about this. So this is a little different way that we have a conversation, we ask certain questions. If there's questions we didn't ask and you think we should ask it, just ask it. And get the response from people. But we do have, and so so you're starting to prepare, and some of your answers could be geared to this. Steven Tyler from, not from the band, right? You get that a lot, but, from Real Life Program, and he's gonna talk, you were 14, is that the story starts at 14, right about then? So he's gonna have an interesting story, and then we're gonna go to, Karleen, and Karleen will tell you about, what she's been through in her life and what she just did on this past Saturday in Richmond City, and the DEA was there, and, some of the prosecutor, the Commonwealth attorneys were there. And then we're gonna go to Krystina Diman, who's at Woody Funeral Home, and gonna talk about what happens after the fact, that everybody's scared to talk about, it might be real too direct, well, she'll give you an option. She can talk to us now and forewarn us, or you could pay her, God forbid, if you have to have a funeral, right? So if it's too direct talk, and Chris will follow up, and usually I would put Chris up first. He's the chief agent in charge, special agent in charge of the DEA. Amazing knowledge, I've heard him speak, and he's got a lot of information. So just so you know where we're going with this, we got one police officer in the room, we've got just regular moms and dads. So that's a great thing. We got the AG's office. You remember the question now?
Yes.
Okay, I did on purpose. I tried to see if there's any recall.
Just as a mom, so that I know what my kids are being exposed to, so that I can look out for it and then help give them the tools they need when they get exposed to things.
So, I would say, sound like a commercial here for a moment for this whole entire moment here, but, drug addiction leads to crime and suicide, mental health issues, failure, conflict. When you look at specifically even our story, which our kids are not as familiar with, just this Saturday, had my sister's boyfriend overdosed on what we would probably think is opioids, could have been fentanyl, as a result of alcohol addiction and trying to detox. So this can hit home very closely when it comes to death and crime and family well-being.
Okay, next question.
All right, how can it affect your health?
Yeah.
In other ways, let's say you survived it. What are some aftermaths to that? Let's say you did.
It's extremely addictive. It is very, very hard to, you don't just wean off of.
Brain damage.
Someone's a liver failure.
Problems? Heart problems?
Is that a possibility?
I think stop.
If you're on something.
It leads to more drug addiction. You can keep doing drugs and, you know, it may not kill you the first time, but it might get you the next time.
Yeah, I think the impact on mental health, totally first, emotional regulation.
So mentally, let's focus a little bit on that. Mentally, how does it affect you?
So a lot of people, like example with my daughter, has a mental health disorder, so that dual diagnosis. So I think it definitely is like a habit forming, but also affects someone from learning how to cope with normal everyday stuff. So it kind of takes away from that healing process, like the feelings, and it's kind of putting a Band-Aid on a bigger wound.
Do you like that word Band-Aid?
Okay, anybody else? Keep in mind when you do conversations like this, I know a lot of you, and I know a lot of people in the community, and beware, you don't know who you're talking to, right? And as an employer, if you're a boss, or if you have a family, or you have a sister or brother, understand who you're talking to, because the guys in the back, the DEA office, knows firsthand, right? A funeral home will know firsthand, the AG's office, one pill will kill. They know firsthand what can happen. So when you're working with people, you don't know if they've lost somebody already. You don't know if somebody's dealing with a mental health issue and they're threatening to do something. Last week, I know of two, and then I found out the third suicide, two people I know last week, you know, my age, two suicides. So it's all wrapped around mental health. They weren't ODs. And so you never know who you're talking to. So it's important to bring the rhetoric down, talk to your employees. That was the purpose of today. Take some time off at your employee, you know, at your company, and don't worry about making money, save some people's lives, because one employee that goes through something that's a disaster in their personal life will kind of sideline them for the rest of their career. They're never able to get back up on their feet 100%. It's just our human mind. We're human beings. Next question.
Did anybody back there want to answer? No? Okay. So Karleen touched on this a little bit, but what are some reasons that people might start using fentanyl?
Curiosity. So I have a question, if that's okay, about this question.
Yeah.
So I probably until 10 minutes ago, didn't really realize that this was something that is being prescribed. So that question goes in that why is this something that would be prescribed when there's so many other drugs that can help with pain or whatever? They're all deadly, but this one, why on earth?
Good question.
I got an answer way in the back.
So.
Come on up so you can hear you.
It is absolutely being prescribed, however, not in what's chemical. Two different types of fentanyl. One is licit, one is illicit. Most of your fentanyl that's killing people is being manufactured in China in precursor form. Goes to Mexico, gets made into fentanyl, gets shipped across the southern, most of it. The stuff that's being prescribed, we're not seeing hardly any of it being misused. And that's what we do all day. All we do is pills and injectables. But it's excellent to draw that delineation, because the fentanyl that the kids are getting hold of, no one even knows what's in it. This stuff is being mixed up in a barrel with a stick. They have no idea what's in it. The stuff that the doctors are prescribing, FDA has approved it. It's going through a million different protocols to make sure it's perfect when it comes out. But they use this drug in surgery, women's clinics, places where you would get a lot of pain, and it's an excellent drug when it's used properly. Like everybody's saying earlier, this stuff is getting mixed in gummies, like, it's a CBD gummy. What's in that? Guess what? That was mixed in somebody's basement in a barrel with a stick. Nobody knows what's in that stuff. Fentanyl's getting into everything. I think I heard it earlier. We saw a little bit of dust in marijuana. So two different types. Both can be deadly, but we want to be sure it's the illicit stuff, the stuff that the cartels are making. And the boss will get more into that.
The big issue is the illicit fentanyl is prescribed. When it is prescribed, you're not taking it home. It is given to you by an anesthesiologist during acute surgeries, period, in the discussion. It is not prescribed. Fentanyl is 100 times, 1,000 times more potent than morphine, which makes it almost, let's see, heroin is 50 times more potent than morphine. Fentanyl is 1,000 times more potent. Then we even have something else worse out there called carfentanil. Thank God that's not as random, because that's even worse. That's a rhinoceros, used for rhinoceros and elephants to take them down. 2-ton animals to do surgeries on 2-ton animals, and we have people putting it in a 175-pound human body. I will talk to you guys later, but I'm passionate about it. I have a 17-year-old at home, I have a 14-year-old at home, and I have them. And I am on them on a daily basis. Every time I go there, you can ask these guys, I still take pictures and text it to them. You know what my concerns most? Your age, right there. In the high schools, the more prevalent, the more, nicer high schools, because it is more rampant. It is rampant right now in vape devices. And that's what scares me. We just seized at Port and Alfred an illegal shipment of vape devices with fentanyl. Did y'all see that on the news?
No.
All right, there you go. All I can do is my job. I suggest everybody speak to their congressman both locally as well as nationally. All I can do is just talk about what happens. I am not encouraged to discuss beliefs. But I can tell you right now, these children sitting up here, these kids sitting up there, these teens sitting up here, they should learn from their mistakes. Not chose how to die after the first one.
Thank you. All right, Eddie, did we finish that question up?
No?
We didn't finish it. What was the question? I don't think you got mine. I don't even remember.
He was actually spot on because, I just, taught JMU, health and PE, and they said they had 8 people drop from doing vape pens that had fentanyl in them last year. So I was teaching fentanyl to the health and PE at, JMU, and they saw just kids dropping, and it was from vape pens, so they never would have in a million years thought that fentanyl was in a vape pen.
Anybody else? Got a question? Did you have something?
Yeah, I did. Good morning. So the clients that I worked with, question was, why do you think someone might start using fentanyl? Some of the clients, that I, work with hand in hand, they would say like, because of the opioid, they would, be addicted to heroin, but, if heroin was scarce, then they would get, heroin, they would get the fentanyl, to suffice or, to make up the difference or something like that, but, yeah, so I'll be talking later. I have 3 teenagers actually. My story will be kind of in depth, but, so I just recently got custody of, 2 of my kids. Which are both, thank you, which are 16 and 17, so. And this is why I'm here, because, with them, it's a struggle, especially with someone saying like in the schools, it's a lot of peer pressure. A lot of the teenagers and young adolescents, man, 12, 11, are vaping. It's the new trend. You're popular to have that. And the school that my children attend, it's in bathrooms, it's everywhere. So, yeah, thank you.
So what would you do if you found out?
The only thing I was gonna say is, why would somebody use it? I think a lot of times they use fentanyl unintentionally. I think there are intentional uses, but I think a lot of, contact with fentanyl is the vape pens or is in something else that they don't realize that it's in. So I think that a lot of that is unintentional. In my profession, I see a lot of death certificates, so I know exactly what happened to you when you die. And a lot of what I see is not strictly fentanyl. It's fentanyl mixed with something. So it's a drug interaction that happens, not all the time, but I think to your question of why somebody would use it, again, there are intentional, but I think a lot of it may be unintentional uses of it.
I have a feeling, I hope Chris brings that up a little bit, the unintentional use, at times, yeah, I don't think people know. We're gonna do one more question, we're trying to be done by 9:15, and then we'll have the 4 people speak, and then you have time for Q&A. But if you were here at the mental health event, you heard me tell this story, I think it's critical, because looking at this audience, I want you to take this message and share it. If you work with me, you've heard the story at least twice, if not 3 times. So I tell a lot of stories over and over again, but in my life, I met a gentleman named Aziz Scott. Aziz Scott was a professional drug dealer. The problem with Aziz Scott is he used his product. He was at the Richmond City Jail. He went to 24 years, started in New York, died in Richmond. 24 years in and out of jails. He knew every sheriff. They loved him. He was a nice guy. But he said to me one time, I hired him, and when he got released, and he said, Barry, my biggest problem with the drug dealers, I use my own product. So I'm easy to capture, right? So you think about that. He was a businessman, very smart businessman. Aziz Scott brought somebody in. We had a gentleman, he was an alcoholic dealing with his addiction, working for me. And his son was 17, and the sheriff, Mike Wade, was waiting for him to turn 18 so they could put him in not a juvie, but an adult correction center, right? They wanted to get this kid, and he knew everything. This kid, if it was your child or just a friend, you wouldn't be a friend with this kid. You want to reach across the desk. Well, Aziz told this kid to try to wake him up and remember this and tell this story. Aziz is no longer with us, okay? He finally OD'd for the last time. But Narcan only works X amount of times, and if it's your time, it's the last time. It's too hot. And he told the kid, he's trying to scare him straight. He said, let me tell you what I do as a dealer. I put this stuff on the counter, I go under my sink, I get Roto-Rooter, Drano. If I get a hold of embalming fluid or formaldehyde, I mix it all together because I want the highest high for my customers. So I'm making up numbers. If it sells for $10 and he could have moved it up and get people near the point of needing Narcan or it got on the street, he dealt right at the convention center. That was his area. And he had great clientele. Think who's downtown. Think about who they're serving. And the drug dealers. And if they got really high, needed Narcan, his price would go to 20, let's say. If the Narcan didn't work and the person died, his price went to like 60. I'm just trying to illustrate. And you say to yourself, why would people buying, they want that bigger high? And that's all I can tell you. And I've learned a little bit. Chris might turn around and say Barry's inaccurate, and I would appreciate that if I'm inaccurate. But I did their DA course years ago, learned a lot, went to their laboratory up in Quantico, and it is truly amazing. And we have a serious problem. And it could be some of our own children, our own grandchildren that are dealing with this. So, and they could be, our grandchildren could be 25, 30 years old. They don't have to be 15 years old to get exploited on this or get hooked on it. Okay.
So what would you do if you saw a friend or knew a friend was using them?
Okay. You love it. Excuse me.
I think that I will talk with everyone that is using any kind of drug. Because as you just say, it can be mixed with anyone. So they might say, oh no, it's marijuana, it's illegal. You can use it. No, because the marijuana might have fentanyl. So it's no one will tell you I'm using fentanyl, but you can see, you can smell if someone is using marijuana. So it's important to tell them, everyone, that you suspect that is using any kind of drug, that it can be mixed with fentanyl.
Very good. Correct. Marijuana is not legal in Virginia.
Oh, really?
I don't care what people say. It is not legal. It has been decriminalized, which means it's a civil fine. If you're caught with more than an ounce on the state level, you can still go to jail.
Thank you.
Marijuana is not legal in Virginia. It is not legal federally. It is actually still a non-controlled substance. I'm sick of hearing that from kids. It's legal. It is not legal.
Thank you. So just so that you know, I was at the Matt Wright thing last night and he asked if marijuana was legal in the entire place that
It is the biggest farce. And our politicians are pulling the wool over our eyes and our kids' eyes. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this political, but it is not legal. And they did, when they decriminalized it, they did not look at the proper studies. The studies coming out now are showing heart conditions, brain aneurysms, and not to mention THC the content of THC is a lot higher than it was when I was in high school 25 years ago. 6 and 7% pure when I was in high school, close to 40 to 60% that they're dealing with today. And that's why we have young men 18 to 25 years old that are doing marijuana and psychotic episodes. But let's legalize it.
All right, so,
The question was, why do you think, what would you do if you found out a friend was using fentanyl? This is a very hard topic for a lot of people, okay? I have had family that has died right under our noses without knowing what they were doing. Education is huge in this subject, that we need to educate our youth, because that's where it's starting. It's starting in the youth. It's because they're so vulnerable. So we have to take that vulnerability away from people. We have to educate. It's important.
I agree with that 100%, but I feel like why are they not in the school systems more? That's where the education really needs to happen. That's one of the places. Get in the schools where the kids are.
Schools don't have that.
And I will say, schools, we try. A lot of schools in the state of Virginia will not let us come in.
I understand.
Think about that at a federal level, what he's telling you, right? He's a big deal. I mean, he's got a lot of lives in his hands and his agents and everything that they do. And Chris and I had a conversation back 2 years ago when I talked to him on the phone, never met him, and we talked about the media. And immediately I called the three, I know all the GMs at the station and trying to say, why are you not covering? Why is this not a daily subject on the news? How could it not be that important? We're talking about everything else, and work-based learning, every one of us that pay taxes, it's in the whole state of Virginia, work-based learning. Get on there, find your contact and say, we want curriculum from Chris's office or the AG's office. The AG is state. And we got a great AG right now with this one tool kill. So we got to use it because the AG does change every 4 years possibly. And then we have Joe from the COVID Institute. If you have anybody in your life or in the future, grab his card. He's got a program that can help detox people and get them before they die. And then what I'm gonna do is we'll bring up, first one's gonna be Steven Tyler, but I'm gonna pass this around. This is gonna be tough. I want you to take your favorite color, put it in front of you. You cannot eat it. These are the good Smarties, okay? So I want to see the one sitting in front of each person for the end of this event. And you got plenty, everybody's got plenty of them you can take home. There's nothing like good Smarties. But take the one you like the best.
So while you all are passing that stuff around, I'll tell you one of my personal stories. I grew up in a Greek household, very Greek. If you're thinking my big fat Greek wedding, you're spot on. My parents were very strict. I mean, like the fear of God in us, right? But mostly with me and my sister. And we're the two oldest. And then they had a boy, Tommy. And Tommy's a great kid. He's awesome, you know? Good heart, everything. But didn't have the same discipline that me and my sister had growing up. Tommy went to college, had a good time, experimented with marijuana a little bit, you know, all the cool stuff that you do when you go partying, you're playing football. Decides school's not for him, so he comes home. Works for my dad. Gets involved with some not so great kids. So being the big sister, I said, let's go. So moved to Richmond and I met Barry. Didn't know what I was gonna do. Didn't have a job yet. Just needed to get my brother away. So Barry says, I want you to come work for me for this program. And you guys want to know what this program is about? It's this. It's helping people and having conversations that make you feel uncomfortable. Because we don't talk about it enough. We're so busy trying to feel good or validate each other or make each other feel good about everything. That's not life. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to have those uncomfortable talks because that's when change happens. And so every day I make my brother uncomfortable because my parents didn't do it growing up. They're awesome parents, but they gave him too much freedom. And so even when he vapes, I'll tell him, can't do that. So bad for you. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about why you feel like we need to do this again. So the panelists are going to talk, That was my personal story. And I want you guys to think about the next time you get an invite from something like this, just remember, everybody has a background story. You don't know what it is, you don't know where it comes from, but it's so important to hear it and to understand. Thank you.
Good morning. Again, my name is Stephen Tyler, of course. My story is actually quite long, but I'm not gonna bore you with a lot of the, the details and the hardships. I started using drugs and alcohol around about the age of 13. I'm from a small county, Gloucester County, other side of Yorktown, where everybody knows everybody. My mom, she had me when she was 16, me and my twin sister. At 18, she had my little sister. She stayed with my grandma, my uncle's 3 kids. We all stayed there. She ended up getting put out, and then we were kind of homeless for a little while. Then she ended up getting a Section 8 apartment over in York County. And that's where it all kind of started at. The environment there with the Section 8 was, it's low income. A lot of the drugs is sold during the day, during the night, anytime. A lot of partying and stuff like that. So at the time, my mom was an avid drinker of alcohol. I didn't know she was alcoholic at the time, of course, because all I seen was, she still took care of us, but I still see her consume alcohol throughout the day and marijuana. So one day, she was smoking this white thing, and it smelled funny. And I asked her what it was, and she said, "Here, try it." So I did. I don't know, it was a hot, you know what I'm saying? But like, long story short, like, me and my mom, we became best friends at that time. We used to drink together at 14. You know what I'm saying? I used to go to the store we used to smoke joints together. That's what it was, a joint. We would smoke joints together. And, at that time, I thought I had the greatest mom in the world. You know what I'm saying? But that led to an addiction, because I didn't stop there. The alcohol and the marijuana was just the gateway for me. I kind of steered away from the marijuana, and alcohol became my drug of choice. From the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep, I consumed alcohol, 40 ounce, 32, whatever I could drink. And then 15 or so, I was drinking straight liquor every day. Got in some trouble as a teenager. I had stolen a vehicle. Of course, I was intoxicated. Put it in the ditch. Went into detention homes. They thought I was sat down with a psychologist because when I went to these detention homes, I sat down and told them, because with detention homes and these group homes, I had more fun, whitewater rafting, mountain biking, skating. I didn't do these things as a child. So they thought I was crazy because I would purposely get in trouble to go back to the group homes. You know what I'm saying? I purposely would steal alcohol and stuff like that so I could go back to an environment that I had fun, because I didn't have that structure. I didn't get to go, skating, whitewater rafting, mountain biking, all those things that group homes and detention homes did. So I kept doing that. So eventually, I went into foster care because my mom said I was, you know, too much to handle, you know, as a parent. You know, I would never give up on my children, you know, no matter, how hard it gets. So, yeah, I was placed in, foster care, still was rebellious. Even as an adult, I still, well, moving back some, even when I was in foster care, I went to high school, as y'all can see, I have a lazy eye. So, I was made fun of, picked on and stuff like that. I wasn't really into drugs at that time, but I started hanging around a crowd that was like the rebellious type, that as long as I was acting a fool or skipping school, you know, they didn't judge me, you know, stuff like that. Versus the other kids, you know, stuff. So that's where that kind of started with the skipping school, the sneaking out. And that's where I started indulging more into some of the harder drugs growing up. Fast forward a little bit, in and out of prison. Majority of my whole adult life, because every situation, every I guess downfall, I turned to alcohol, I turned to some type of substance because I felt like at that time that it could take away what I was going through. It only, drugs, alcohol, it only masked for however long you're gonna be intoxicated for, or however long you're gonna be high for. Because once you sober up, whatever you had going on, it's still gonna be there once you sober. So, you know, it's just different ways of, you know, handling, you know, stress and, or death or anything like that. It wasn't until this last time, maybe 3 years ago, I purposely went to Indian Creek Correctional Center in Chesapeake. I became a peer mentor. They had youth offenders there, which would, you know, they're called YOs. They were 16 to 24. I mentored those. I gave them my life story and told them that, you know, I get it. You know, you came from poverty, or you came from an environment that you don't like, but you don't have to be a product of your environment. You know what I'm saying? You can do something different. You know what I'm saying? Who cares what everybody else thinks? Don't do what everybody else is doing just to be cool or just to fit in. Be your own person. I preach that to my kids all day long. So that's how that's my time up then. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get a phone out.
He's gonna answer great, yeah.
Somebody's at my house. Anything else? You fish up.
Oh, okay.
Go.
So yeah, so that's how I started with that. Like I said, it was a peer mentor, and then the counselor there started talking to me about being a peer recovery specialist. So when I came home, I hit the ground running as far as, you know, what can I do to become a certified peer recovery specialist, stuff like that. And, you know, that's how I got involved with, you know, a lot of Starbucks and stuff like that. I would travel from Williamsburg to Richmond almost on a daily basis just to volunteer, or give back to the community, hygiene, energy kids, talking to different, you know, kids and stuff like that. Like I said, I do have 3 teenagers. Like I said, I just got custody of 2 of them. The thing I want to say to like some of the parents is that I have friends right now that let their kids vape, do carts and all that stuff because they feel that, you know, they're gonna do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that. And I guess it is I don't know how to say this. I think some of the parents today are trying to be like their children's friend, like how my mom did. instead of being the discipline, putting your foot down, being the disciplinary and stuff like that. That's what a lot of the young parents of the generation today is with the kids. They want to be their friends instead of trying to be the parent. And that's where a lot of the stuff comes in at. It's leading to 12, 13-year-olds going to the store and buying them because, as they would say, oh, it's safe because I got it for you at this store versus you going out and, you know, so, but that's all I have. Sorry for taking up something.
Pass the mic over to, Karleen. You can get set up, you can stand, you can sit, whatever you like to do. The video, yeah, do we have that? Yeah. There you go. You want to put that on? And take your time. You want to stand or sit, whatever you like to do. While she's setting up, just, I've had a lot of experience between C.T. Woody and Dr. Scarborough in the city jail. Caritas, probably 20 years ago, hired people out of the programs, the HARP program in Chesterfield. And let me give you the thing I've always hear, and Stephen, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but every time I go to these programs and talk to the people, they say they wish they knew God beforehand. They all find God somehow in the programs, they're faith-based, and they go to them, and a lot of people say, so that's the punchline to maybe the emptiness we have, and maybe we need something in our life, whatever that might be. So you don't have to wait to find out the hard way. I'm telling you what they're telling people at the HARP program right now, every single day. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Stephen, yeah, a great story, and the real life program, we're lucky to have it here. And Shin, we got a lot of great programs here. And you know, yeah, oh, please.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your story. I appreciate it. You know, my husband and I, between the two of us, we have 8 kids that range from 9 all the way up to 26. And I think one of the things as a parent, and I'm hoping that this is part of the discussion for the rest of this morning, is, well, there's 2 parts. So one is, and this is a big one for me, we can talk all day long about why not to use drugs or whatnot. But one of the things that I learned about halfway through with my oldest, who's now going to be a senior in college, is talking about when they're in the moment, ways that they can get around or actually say no, that allow them to sort of save face, you know, strategies for, like, if you're at a party and somebody tries to hand you a drink, like how you can kind of be cool, but still, you know, like those kinds of strategies, real life situations, like how do I handle it when I'm in the moment? Because otherwise they freeze up when they have it. And then the other thing too that we're facing is with our college kids, when they're away at college, we can't be there, you know, telling them, no, don't do that. The awkward thing is they get accustomed to making the choices themselves. When they come home over the summer, it becomes very awkward. Like, yeah, I understand that you have a fake ID or you're drinking or you're doing whatever while you're away from me. But when you're back in my home, how do you handle, you know, setting rules when they're technically adults and doing their own thing when they're away 9 months out of the year?
Doing drugs when I was about 13 years old. So at that point, once I aged out into 18, I ended up, you know, starting to I started doing drugs when I was about 13 years old. So at that point, once I aged out into 18, I ended up, you know, starting to get into selling, you know, marijuana, substances and stuff like that. I got right back into the bad crowd, bad boyfriends, everything, was led me into being shot. I ended up getting into gun violences multiple times, just the wrong crowd. And I would find myself trying to fit in. But really, I was just looking for that love and that confirmation within myself, but I was looking for it outside from other people. So that just looked like a whole cycle of just drowning pain. And what covered that was those drugs or party favors or alcohol that I could get my hands on at that time. with that being said, I think another thing that is very important is at a certain point, I ended up giving up. I tried to commit suicide, which was like the end of the road for me. I tried to commit suicide and I ended up going to Louisville, Kentucky, to get clean and sober. After about 6 months when I was there, I ended up relapsing. And you know, I ended up going back into the program and then I ended up going back to Virginia because it was kind of a rocky point. I ended up starting to get into more serious things, for myself to try to get money. So that put me in a position to where I was unsafe, I was unsure, I didn't feel like I had my friends or family, so I moved back to Richmond. And as soon as I moved back to Richmond, my hometown, I went and did the same old stuff again, even worse. To the point where on Christmas Day, of last year, I actually overdosed on fentanyl. And I had been out about 30 minutes, I'd say, until someone found me and had to resuscitate me and I was brought back to life. And at that decision, in that moment, I knew I needed to get help. And from that point, I called, you know, networking and people that I knew in the community, my mother knew in the community, and I just said, I need help. And coincidentally, the same night that I chose to get help, I was also kidnapped and raped. You know, by 2 people, and I didn't know those people. I pled for my life, and in that moment, where I pled for my life, I realized like I may have inflicted that from things that I used to do, party favor, stuff like that. But there was a point where the decisions that I made using drugs, I almost had my life taken away from me that I didn't get to choose if I was going to make it out or not. That was a higher power that I had chosen in that moment if I made it or not. So in that moment, I chose, once I made it through, that I was still gonna go to that recovery house and get sober and leave all that behind me, and that's exactly what I did. So I ended up going to a program and I started getting myself together, and you know, I'm in a position now where, you know, I've been on probation. I was on the run for 2 years, and now I'm about to graduate probation in July, because I've been passing all my tests. I've been doing everything good like I'm supposed to. It's just the best feeling in the world. And I'm about to get my son back. I have a 2-year-old, about to get my son Gianci back. So I'm very excited about that because, you know, the whole thing about life is not just about the materialistic things or how much you have, or how many people like you. It's about the people that really care about you, that you spend time with and bring around you. That's what I've learned. So I think the most important thing about, you know, fentanyl awareness is it can happen to anybody. It doesn't have to just be somebody on the side of the street holding up a sign. It could be $1 billion person on Wall Street, and they could be doing the exact same amount of stuff that somebody on the side of the street is doing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't exempt anybody in the disease. It's always going to be anywhere and everywhere. It just, we have to spread more awareness to it. Because if we don't spread awareness to it, no one's gonna know. Or if we avoid it and we act like it's not there, then it's just gonna be a slow death that we call a genocide. And that genocide is just going to wipe out people without bringing awareness, which is why we're doing this tonight as well. Because maybe people may not know what the color purple means, but they're going to look up tonight and say, wow, that's color purple. And then they're going to go through their feeds and they're going to see that that purple association was connected to fentanyl awareness. So it's all about bringing people in to awareness of fentanyl, not even just fentanyl, mental health as well. Just a lot of substances abuse, you know, all that plays a big factor. But, you know, currently right now, I'm about to be a peer recovery specialist. I graduate on Friday. So I'm about to start trying to help and give back to people. But like I said, this all brings around with fentanyl awareness. It's all about just helping people spread light to this and know that people are dying every day. It's not getting better. It's not getting any better at all. People are fighting for their lives. Even when they're in recovery house, it's not just a 28-day program, it's not a couple months. Like, people have to fight this addiction forever. So instead of just trying to like shed a little bit of light, let's shine the whole sun on it. And that's all I got. So thank you.
That was
If
my
we applaud,
daughter.
can she hear us?
I know. Okay, now we need to get rid of wrinkles.
Thing is like, no.
There we go. So that was my daughter, Nicole. And so there was a couple pictures I wanted to show, but I wanted to show that as well. And she was a straight A student, travel soccer. Like, my background is my father was Air Force. We have no substance in our family with alcohol, drug use at all. My dad also was a huge person at the Henrico County Government Center, where he was head of the entire planning department and the Eastern Government Center. So, you know, we came from a very grounded family, church, all the things. My daughter, sadly, in middle school was raped and didn't tell us in 7th grade. And so she started battling that. And so I really want to hit on this because kids every single day are battling things, whether that's social media, whether that is bullying, it doesn't matter. And what happens is, especially after COVID, we're just holding on to all these emotions, and kids don't know how to express that stuff. Adults, we battle this too, right? Like, this is an everyday thing. We're not in the world we used to be. You know, we have so much pressure on us now in today's society. So 10 years, my daughter has gone through substance and mental health. You know, so she actually had a full ride to go to UVA. She wanted to be a lawyer. I'm talking every college was giving her full scholarships. I had to give up custody of her, her senior year to try to get her help from her substance. And it started off with marijuana. So I want to hit on that. That is the gateway. And so she started with marijuana, which led into deeper and harder things. And so she stopped caring. She slept all the time. She didn't go to school. She was skipping class. And I didn't know what was going on. And then I finally started realizing that we've got a big issue here. And so I did send her away. She was at UMFS. And that was the hardest thing I had to do as a parent, is saying, like, I got to do something to save this kid's life, to do something. And so I had to give up custody of my kid just to force her to go get help, because at the age of 14, they get to choose whether or not they're going to go and get help, even if they absolutely need it. So she did go into a program. She did great. She got out. She started working her job, and that's where she got all these applications to colleges. But then she got right back into the crowd, and it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point that she did not graduate. She finally later on did get her GED. But she tried to commit suicide many times, and, you know, she ended up getting pregnant, and she ended up, stopped using at that point, got her life straight. But within a month of her having her son, she got right back into it, if not harder, because she had postpartum. And she took off and moved to Ohio, left her son behind, and I ended up having to raise him. And then I sent her to Kentucky. She got hooked to Percocet in Ohio, and the Percocet had fentanyl. So we've had 2 situations where this hit home. She was in Ohio. I was able to get her back home, and she was on cardiac watch because she had so much fentanyl in her system. So that was the very first stage. So you got to understand, I'm a parent of a child who struggles with substance, and I did not know about fentanyl. I did not. I couldn't talk to my kid. And most parents who come into the nonprofit that I started, the biggest thing I hear from them, they did not know to talk to their kids about this. They didn't think that they would need to talk to their kids about this. I'm telling you, you need to talk to your kids about this. It doesn't matter if your kid's using or not, they need to hear this. And most parents I do talk to, a lot of their kids had sports injuries. They were playing football and stuff like that. And so they couldn't get any more, prescriptions from the doctor. So what do? They hit the market. And so social media is where these kids are getting it. That's where my daughter got it. So she ended up going to Kentucky into a treatment facility, came back to Richmond, and she started using harder. And I want to tell you guys, right down the street in Wyndham, and God bless my parents, but they were enablers. My daughter almost died this Christmas from fentanyl. So we're talking, you go right out here, Knuckles Road, Wyndham. Someone delivered the drugs to my daughter's house, because we got social media, right? So it's delivered. And she almost died. And so I think the person knew when she was not responsive that she had died right there on my mom and dad's steps. They heard her like stumble, but they didn't know what was going on. She did make it. They were able to bring her back. That has caused PTSD and all the things with me. And so as a parent, I can't stress enough, like that, it can happen. And we're avoiding these conversations, and I hear it all the time, like, well, why do I need to carry Narcan? Everybody needs to carry this. We all need to talk about this. We gotta stop thinking this can't happen to us. It can happen to anybody, but we're just tiptoeing around life, sitting back, not talking about these things because we think it's either gonna go away, or we think, oh, it's not gonna happen to us, or, oh, we don't have anybody in our family using. Most people that I talk to, their kids never used a day in their life. So yes, my daughter did use, but I'm trying to explain to you guys, it's not just kids that are using. This is like maybe a kid that needs to stay up to take a test the next day in college. This is a kid that maybe is vaping, like Chris was talking about. Like, this is just anyone. Sports injuries, that's a big one with athletes. I couldn't tell you how many moms, these were like avid athletes, football, like head football people, and they're gone. Like, they're gone. These are good kids. And so this Saturday, what Barry was talking about, these moms have come to me because I opened up about this, and they trust me now. And we had a billboard, and it's going to be there till the end of the month. Please go see it. Kids need to see this. I could not stress enough. Please take your kids to go see this. But it's 200 West Grace Street, right in front of the Richmond Police Station. And that's my cue almost. See, I'm on you. I got this. I actually follow rules. Y'all see this? But the Richmond Police Department, right there, there's a big billboard. And so and those are kids that in the local Richmond area that have died from fentanyl poisoning. So I couldn't stress enough to go take a peek. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Krystina, you want to stand up? There's a guy you get set up, Krystina. And Chris, what I'm gonna ask you to do, the reason I put you last too, is that if you hear anybody say anything like you to correct us, that's a big deal, I think. Yeah, I got it. I appreciate that. You're the man for the job. And then Ben at the Attorney General's office also, there's gonna be a lot of material for you to take home from everybody. You don't have to run out of here. You got 2 more presentations, Q&A, hang out, talk to each other, whatever you want to do. We're gonna be doing these over again. Ready to go? I'm stalling for you.
All right, so my name is Krystina Diman. I am the president of Woody and Nelson Funeral Homes in the Richmond area. So I want to speak to you specifically on what happens, hopefully, if somebody encounters drugs, hopefully they recover and they're on the road to recovery. That's what we want. But if they don't, they come see me. So I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer. And what happens when you encounter the unintentional or the intentional, because again, some people make the choice to take the drugs wherever that stems from, whether it's mental health or their friend, peer pressure, their friends told them to do it, or it's unintentional. They encounter a vape pen because that's the cool thing and it's in there and they don't know it. They didn't intend to take the drug, but it's in there. All of that, if God forbid you don't make it out, I want to speak to the children specifically on what happens when your parents find you. So you take it or your friends take it, you don't make it out, your heart stops, the Narcan doesn't work, they can't get to you in time, whatever that situation looks like, your parents then have to have that call from the law enforcement agency that you've passed away. From there, you come to me. So they reach out to a funeral home. They have to begin the process of starting to plan a funeral service. Okay, so you come to me. I take care of your body. I have your lifeless body in the funeral home. Okay, so I am tasked with caring for you, but I'm also tasked with walking your parents through what that looks like and trying to not only memorialize you, but go on with their life without you. So that is very, very difficult. And a lot of times, this is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. Nobody wants to talk to me. I don't take offense to it. I'm used to it, but nobody wants to talk about death, adults or kids. And a lot of times as parents, we try to shield our kids from, oh, I don't want to take them to the funeral home, or I don't want to have that conversation because that might be too much for them. You need to hear it because the reality is drugs don't discriminate. They don't care if you're 10 or you're 80. I've seen it all. I've seen everybody, every age, every ethnicity, every race. It does not discriminate. And so your parents then come in. We plan a service for you. Whether that be cremation of your body and your parents get sent home with an urn, whether that be burial in a cemetery and that's where they get to go and visit you for the rest of their lives. They come in and what we leave them with, at the end of that service, we pack all of your belongings, all the pictures of you, the beautiful videos that we put together. We pack all of that up in a box with a death certificate that says exactly why you passed, what happened, and that's what your parents get to take home. They get to go home with a box of all of your belongings and your tribute video and your flowers, whatever is there at the funeral home. And that's all they have left. That's all they have left. And I know that's tough to hear, and that's tough to kind of marinate on and think about. But what I want you to take from that is even if hopefully you never come in contact with any kind of drug, but if you're in a friend circle, if you're in a group where you see somebody struggling, I want you to know, I think that you all are lovely. I think that I look in your eyes, there's so much potential there. You could be whatever you want to be in life. You matter, you're enough, your family loves you because let me tell you something. When they show up for the funeral and you get to my place, guess who's not going to be at your funeral service? The friends group that you chose to let peer pressure you into whatever happened. Your parents will be there. Your siblings will be there. The family unit that loves you and thinks that you're fantastic, they'll be there. But typically that group of friends, they don't come because they don't care about you. Your parents do. And please, if you have a friends group that you see somebody going down the road or they're encountering or they're talking about it or whatever, please advocate for them. You are the knowledge. So you're coming here, your parents have brought you here, fantastic, I love that. But you now spread this word. You tell your friends. And your mom asked a question earlier about what do you say? Because guess what? I'm not that old. I was in high school. All of us were. We all had that peer pressure. And it is tough because you want to be cool. You don't want to be the one, that is ridiculed or bullied or whatever that case may be. Make up an excuse. It could be as simple as somebody says, hey, you want to try this? You're at a party. Make up an excuse. Oh, you know what? I'm not feeling well. Or hold on, I'll be right back. Let me go. I have to make a phone call really quick. Call your parents. Call your parents and say, hey, I need you to come get me. Or call somebody that you trust. If you're scared to say it to your parents, call a sibling, call a cousin, have somebody that you can call and just say, oh my gosh, I had a family emergency, I have to go. It could be as simple as that. You don't have to be uncool. You don't have to approach it and say, oh, I attended this class and this funeral lady told me I can't do that. It doesn't have to be anything uncool. It can be as simple as, hold on, I'll try it when I get right back. I gotta go to the bathroom or whatever. Step out, make that phone call. And call somebody or just, walk out of wherever you are. If you're close enough to walk, just leave. You don't have to say a word. So I know that it's tough. Nobody wants to talk about funerals. Nobody wants to talk about what happens to your body, but it is a real thing. And I've seen the youngest at 10 years old. 10 years old. And I've seen them go all the way up to 85. So it's unfortunate. I hope that we don't have to meet that way. I would much prefer to see you in the grocery store or somewhere else. But this is an important conversation.
to have because it is very real. And I thank you for letting me come and talk to you today.
Come on up, Chris. You want a microphone or you want to go without? I'm not gonna get you mad at me, so we'll do whatever you want. And let's wrap up the Smarties. So if you got a Smartie like this color, just so you know, good news, it's laced with fentanyl, but the safe one, like Chris mentioned at the hospital. So you'll be okay if you take that pill. The problem is, where we got this one, and you ate it at school, you're dead. This is like big orange or something. Think about it, how random it is.
But you come get them up color they like.
And that's how they serve it up, and now we're gonna find out more if I'm right or wrong.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, as Barry said, my name is Krystina Diman. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Richmond District Office. I cover 3 states. I cover 8 offices down here. I'm sorry, my division covers 3 states. I cover 8 offices south of Spotsylvania, from the Hampton Roads all the way out to Bristol. 28th year law enforcement. I was an Norfolk cop before coming home. My father was a policeman. His twin brother was a policeman. I worked with that man on Norfolk PD 20 years ago, sitting static there. That is now one of my supervisors, and I love him to death. I'm here to talk to you about the epidemic in our country. And this epidemic is called fentanyl. In 2022, we lost 107,000 souls to this scourge of a drug. Now, to put it into perspective, because, 107,000, that doesn't, I can't even fathom that. Who here are Washington Nationals fans? Anybody here baseball? Okay.
Orioles.
Okay, Camden Yards. Let's talk about Camden. You been to Camden Yards?
More times than you can count.
Okay, take 2 Camden Yards, and that's how many people we lost. 2 Camden Yards fully packed in 1 year. Who here's been to the Diamond? Big partner with the Flying Squirrels. Love them over there. Great people. 12 diamonds at capacity in 1 year. That was in 2022. 2023, 110,000. Now we're at 10 diamonds. The median cause of death between the ages of 18 to 45 years old. Let me bring it down to Virginia real quick. How many, everybody heard about gun crime, right? That's a buzzword, right? Gun crime. We gotta get rid of guns. Gun crime, gun crime, gun crime. How many murders did we have in Virginia last year or in 2022? Anybody take a guess? Give me a throw number out.
38.
No, in all of Virginia.
Well, that was my number.
38?
5,000.
How many? 30,000. You're way up.
100,000.
No, nowhere close. In Virginia, we had less than 1,200 murders. Now, as a policeman, new policeman, he'll tell you, homicide is just a term. Homicide could be a gunshot, could be a knife, could be a hanging, could be anything. We had 1,200 homicides. If you actually equate that down to gun crime, you're probably only about 900. How many car crashes, deaths by car crashes we had in Virginia last year? Anybody? 1,100. So I take 1,100 and I take about 900 on gun crime. What are we at, 2,000? Let me gamble on how many overdoses we had in the Commonwealth due to fentanyl.
7,000.
There's a good guess, but let's talk about just deaths. 3,000, just deaths. If you add what was saved with Narcan by either Enrico PD or HPD or by mom's groups like Miss Karleen here, you're upwards of 7,000 or 8,000. Now do the math. We only had 2,000 total homicides and car crashes. But we had upwards of 8,000 in fentanyl. What's killing our kids, people? Thank you. That's what drugs are killing our people. And where are these drugs coming from? Now it's time to bring it to the national level. This is our wheelhouse. This is what we do. Every precursor for fentanyl and methamphetamine, 2 synthetics, why they become so popular? Because there's no growing season. We all remember cocaine. Cocaine's still prevalent, still a problem in Richmond, but there's a growing season. It's gotta be harvested 2 times a year. Fentanyl, methamphetamine can be harvested every day. It's made in a lab. The precursors for those are coming straight from the People's Republic of China. And in essence, we lost 107,000 in 2022 catching 110,000 in 2023 between the ages of 18 and 45 years old. Just real quick, what's the average age of our military men and women? 18 to 45 years old. So the People's Republic of China killed 223,000 potential military age men and women in our country without firing one shot. Think about that. This is not just intel, this is actually in the news. There are over 160,000 precursor companies in the People's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China give them a tax break if they ship them precursors outside the country. If they ship them within China, they get fined. Keep ordering off Amazon.
Right.
Okay, where do they go? Anybody?
Where did the drugs go?
Yeah, where do precursors go when they leave China?
Mexico.
There you go. Mexican cartels, two cartels. Sinaloa cartel and the cartel Jalisco single-handedly are responsible for over 95% of every bit of fentanyl and methamphetamine that are in our country. They are single-handedly killing 223,000 people. We at the DEA do our best to target these cartels. But it is more than what we can do from an enforcement side. There has to be addressed from the State Department side. There has to be addressed how to deal with the government of Mexico. We have to deal with the border. We have to deal with the influx, because it's not just migrants walking across the border. Yeah, it's not. We as citizens need to take a look at ourselves. Why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing this scourge drug across our border and to be sold to our kids? We should be protecting our kids. We shouldn't allow it. Okay, as I said earlier, I got 3 boys. My oldest is gonna be the death of me. I'm sure he'll be the death of me. The other 2 are a little bit younger. They haven't started yet, but when I drop dead, y'all know why. It's the 17-year-old. He's on his, he's looking at colleges. Hopefully he's going on. I tell him all the time, and I'll tell you guys the same thing. Show me your friend group and I'll show you your future. You show me your friend group and I will show you your future. Why? Because I can tell you this, in almost 28 years of law enforcement, I have interviewed addicts, drug dealers, as well as victims, to include parents and kids. And not one of them, well, there has been some circumstances where they went straight to fentanyl. But most of them, as Ms. Karleen said, started with the gateway drug. And I'm not here to talk about that. Is that right? Yeah. I'm not here to talk about marijuana, but I can tell you this, fentanyl is the #1 drug that is killing us. Question becomes, how do they get to that? I could, again, I will send my people out to any large organization and speak to you guys. For the schools, we have a big program in the United States Attorney's Office called Silent Program. Chesterfield County has allowed us to do it. I am trying to do it in right. Trying, but I keep getting kind of knocked down.
What about Richmond?
Trying? Yeah. Richmond is one of those schools, one of those school systems who feel that, my message might be a little bit too.
Kids are dying.
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
3 cases.
Yeah, they are. Kids are dying all across the country.
And they use it in candy.
Yes, they are.
And it's too hard of a conversation.
I'll let you guys go on, because I'm not a politician, I'm just.
You did great.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be a good politician because I won't last.
Right.
Because I speak my mind.
That's what we need.
Anybody? Yeah, ask me a hard question. This is what I do for you.
So it's infuriating to know that basically our #1 enemy, which is China, is very easily getting it across our borders. So what do we do as private citizens to, like this? I don't have a badge. I mean, I can talk to, and anybody who knows me, I'm very much about controlling my environment. I can't control what you do. I can't control what you do, right? I control my environment, but how do we as a collective do that? Because me just controlling my environment is great to protect my daughter and my son and maybe their friends. But then after that, I don't have any control. So how do we get together as citizens as human beings, realizing that there's another country. There's another country who's trying to kill us.
This young lady right here, and I tell her all the time, she sat with me at the family summit that we do, to talk about the death of fentanyl. And I sat with her daughter as one of the best messages. She had single-handedly created a group that had more sway. My mom was fickle at her. She had single-handedly lobbied our AG, Mr. Miaris, and has done more with what, 25, 50 people started? It's all it takes. Because guess what? Voting blocks. Make change. Now, I don't care what side you vote on, but they make change. You're right. One person talking to a politician, probably not going to do much. 25, 50, 100, give us short. We need to save our kids. I don't care how they do it. Look, I say this all the time, and I think Mary's going to say, what happened in the 80s when it came to alcohol? Remember, you remember 70s, 80s, you had the 3, 2, 1 beer, 3, 1 beers? Remember? Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And then, we had car crashes. We had people dying because they were out drinking and driving. What came out of that? Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Number one, MAD single-handedly changed the alcohol laws in this country to 21 years old, 0.08 as the blood alcohol content. Single-handedly did that. So where's MAD? That's my question. Where are Mothers Against Dangerous Drugs right now? That's now we're partnering with whoever starts. Huh?
I said they're all grandmothers or elderly.
Well, we're still one nation.
I know.
I will partner with anybody that creates MAD to get the message out. Yes, ma'am.
Chris, I'm piggybacking. If I can get you in the school, we go.
Yes, ma'am. In a heartbeat.
I'm gonna take your.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I'll go to any school anytime.
Okay.
I don't care if I can turn one kid. If I can get one kid to listen, then I did my job.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You say that we need to write to our senator, but what should we ask them? To have you going to the school to teach?
No, just talk to them about drug laws. We have to be certain. Look. Certain people think drugs aren't a major issue. But they are. Drugs are at the root of everything. You ask, I'm sorry, another job. Property crime. Most times tied to drugs, what you seen so far? See what you seen? Absolutely. Property crime. Somebody stealing something out of somebody's garage. Why are they stealing? Homicides. I bet you look at half of the homicides, they're drug related, some shape, way, or form. The problem we have in our local police departments don't have the manpower to investigate. They get to a clearance. The clearance will be so-and-so had a problem with so-and-so. So-and-so had a problem with so-and-so. But what's the root cause of that problem? Probably drugs, but they cleared it because so-and-so killed so-and-so over the problem. Nobody asked what that problem is. So we have a drug problem in our society. This is where we as citizens, not just the DEA, not just the police departments, not just the advocacy groups, but everybody has a responsibility to protect them.
So you hit it on the nail because for this year, just so you parents, everybody, I went to lobby, like you said, and spoke up. And we met up there. And so I was able to get a bill passed, the HB 134, look it up. It's a bipartisan and it's mandating the schools to talk about opioids and fentanyl in the school system. So they have to create a curriculum. I spoke up, like he said, they need to hear that we're not putting up with this. And this is not a political mess anymore. Like these are our kids, they have kids. So when I spoke to the General Assembly schools, I brought that stuff up because there's a political war mess going on right now. And that's not what this is about. This is not going to save our kids, right? And so like he said, it takes parents beating down the door. It's like, hey, we are here. Change needs to happen. So it can't be, it takes one, but then it takes many. So the more and more they keep speaking up and standing up, that's where this mess is going to stop, hopefully.
I don't say this conveying, but we are apolitical. When I say we, the DEA, I'm apolitical. I'm not even here from a political standpoint. I work for Republicans, I work for Democrats, I work for independents. My boss right now is a Democrat. My boss 4 years ago was a Republican. My boss prior to that was a Democrat. My boss prior to that was a Republican. So I work for everybody. What I care about are them.
Yes.
That's it. I don't care what you have, you have R, a D, or an I in front of your name. I will talk to anybody, if we can solve this problem.
One more thing, Barry.
Yeah, good.
You know, I've spent a lifetime trying to fight against the issues of growing up on the other side of the train tracks. My sister that I was just talking about earlier is from Gloucester. She was living in Gloucester last year in the part of Gloucester that you don't want to be in. And you know what I'm talking about. So speaking to my kids here, I'm just going to speak to them and then the audience for a quick moment here. One is about choice. There's two choices that you have as children, and we've been trying to reinforce this. And I'm going to say it right here in this moment. One, we all know that you're an average of the 5 people that you surround yourself. So the question is, are you choosing 5 people that are better than you or 5 people that are like you? As children, you don't know quite yet what's going to work for you. As an adult, that's when the choice really matters. And you will see people go on both sides of that choice there. You will either choose the people that are like them, that become echo chambers, or people that are different from them and better than them in a specific area to help them grow. So that's choice number one. Choice number two, as when you become an adult, is what are you going to advocate for or protect? And so, and as adults, you have to make a choice of how can you advocate/serve. So as you were talking about there, taking on a mission to advocate and serve and being very clear about what it is that you're advocating for and what it is that you're trying to serve. The other side is how can you protect/conserve? So what are you standing up for to protect? Is it your principles? Is it values? Is it the law? What is it that you're going? And then lastly, how do you go about that? Communication. Communicate, collaborate, clarify. It's the 3 C's that I try to live by. And so if you understand those 3 C's, boy, can you make a difference? Because it is not about doing something complicated. Sometimes the voice is what really makes the biggest difference, because we are a society that cares about others some more than others. So I want to thank everybody here for an opportunity for my kids to be here and hear this at such a pivotal time that makes a big difference. And I just thank Barry. Barry and I go back to the Federal Reserve 10 years ago, in which he was one of the leadoff speakers to a conference that we held around inclusive hiring and retention, how to get people with barriers to employment into living wage career pathways. Real life, Dr. Scarborough was a part of that. And I will tell you, these are the conversations that make a difference. But if we don't weave them into regular life, whether it be business, like what you've done so great here, right? You can start with trust. So insert my commercial there. Thank you.
So much. So I can't thank you all enough for coming, and I hope to honest question, what are we gonna do? We can keep growing these conversations. Evie's gonna probably finish us off and tell us what else we're offering. But, it's politicians, his name, Ryan McDougal was here, did Mark Early both did a podcast with us a couple weeks ago. And Ryan has been a state senator for a long time. And he said, don't wait on politicians. Tell us what you need, but don't think we're gonna solve things. That's not what we do. And the problem is half of our society, and we don't know who they are waiting on government employees to do something. They're just parents like we are. We're citizens like we are. We're all human beings. Josh at the end of the room here is a police officer at Enrico, and he can only respond and try to help and work with the DEA or the AG's office. We can all just work together. But these conversations have got to continue. This is a great start. We can't videotape it, but we did audio tape it. We'll share it out. Share it out. If there's 25 people in the room, this is the big math. We're not very good at the BBB on math. But 25 times 250, what's it come to?
500 is 2,500, so 5,756.
Wow. We're gonna believe you. We don't have to do that. So, our circle of influence is 250 people. And I bet you it's greater with the social media world. So if 25 of us tell a story, we're able to touch that many people. Tell about Karleen's. We don't need to keep going to fundraisers, raising money to fix this problem, guys. MAD, I've been involved with MAD for almost 20 years. Carter Hill got me involved. I go to the Jamaica Police Department. I've been on the night stops, whatever they call that, and I've done walk like MAD with Greg McQuaid and so many people. And MAD just gets it done. But Chris is so right. We have got to get this serious, okay? And there's people my age. Oh, it's legal to smoke a joint, like Chris just covered. And they don't realize my age, it was clean weed maybe at Woodstock, because I'm that old, right? That's what we gotta talk about, because it's could be laced, it's could be one shot. A vape or something could be laced, I believe, with anything. So Abby's gonna come up and tell you a little bit more about Ignite. Stay around, get it material. You can't hand out enough stuff. And please go out and take a picture with the DA team if they can be in pictures and share that billboard. The greatest thing we got going on around our community. Abby, you did a great job.
Thank you everyone for coming today and participating in the conversation. It was great seeing everybody. I had a wonderful time. I hope you all did as well. We will be having more events like this in the future, at least 2 each month. We're gonna try and do one revolving mental health. Thank you all for coming. Around mental health, we had one last month. We're gonna try and focus more on specific details with that. So like Barry said, make sure to take pictures, talk to each other, share out the audio. It's gonna be on the podcast, which is BBB Sharing. Listen to that. We've had a lot of people like Sickle Cell, Dr. Wally Smith come in and talk to us. We've had Dr. Susan Hong from Cancer Survivorship at WCU Health. So just listen to that and get on the YouTube channel, BBB Central Virginia. And thank you for coming again. I hope you all had a good time. You want to share? Oh, if you want to do a podcast with me, you're more than welcome to.
Abby, you're gonna come pick up these fentanyl pills?
I am. Don't worry. I'm going to clean up afterwards. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I'm on the board here. I understand that. Y'all ain't busy, I'll go for
He's somebody who was, Kim and I are.
Yeah.